Hello everybody and welcome back to my art YouTube channel. Now this is the series that I'm continuing from last episode where I'm painting a landscape from my local area. If you didn't see the last episode, the link will be in the description below. But basically what we did was lay down some foundations for the painting and basically just put some layers on the canvas here. So as you can see, we've got one layer down here, which is the foreground, the grass, the riverbank, some bushes and shrubs in the background. So today we're going to be putting some detail onto this painting. Now I'm going to start off by once again making some grey, and in the picture that is going to be on the screen now, like an overhang or like a bit of concrete going across here, and it's basically of where a bridge used to be, I believe. So that is the first bit that I'm going to start off with now. So I'm just going to get some white and some black on my canvas to make some grey again. You're just going to paint that little bit of concrete down the bottom there. I'm probably going to use this 1-inch brush. It's just the right length, I think. We're just going to start on the corner here and work our way across. We want this sort of hexagonal shape, sort of diagonally like that, and then we're just going to paint across the whole thing. So this is just going to be our foreground. We want a nice straight line, as straight as we can get it anyways. A little bit down here in the corner here. So I'm just going to stick a bit of green on the palette here, and we're just going to straighten that edge up a little bit. We're going to get some green paint on there, and we're just going to try and straighten that edge out a bit. Try and be as steady as I possibly can. The grass is kind of overgrowing the concrete anyways, so it doesn't matter if it like overlaps a little bit. Don't worry about it. So that's that bit sort of done for now. I'm just going to leave that to dry while I do other bits of the painting now. I'm going to get a smaller brush now, just to be a bit more, so we can chuck a bit more of an outline. We're going to chuck some rocks in the corner here, I think. In the corner here, I'm going to get some rocks painted sort of on the side of the river. I'm just going to do the outlines, make a basic shape first, and then add some details on later, some shading and stuff. But with rocks, like, you just want to get a nice basic shape going first, plant that rock where you want it to be. We're going to do a couple of kind of coming off the side here. And we're just going to get the basic shape of them first, what we want. Just get the outlines. Let's just fill this area in with the grey colours we want. I'm using quite a light grey because I'm going to paint over it with some other darker colours and stuff to get the shape that I want. You know, this is just kind of just to lay out where it's going to be, like, you know, where I want it. So let's just to get the outlines of it. We can put all the shapes and everything in afterwards. The shadows. I'm going to add in a little bit and it goes down like that. Do you know what I mean? Just add it in. That. Those rocks go there. I'm going to get my smaller brush again out of the water and dry it just to get the outlines and fill in any little gaps. Bring them out a little bit. We'll leave a little bit of a water path sort of flowing underneath it, like so. There we are. So we've got the basic shape of what we want. So after we get the basic shape is when we will add some colour, some shades, some structure. So to do that, I'm gonna get a lot more black and white. So now, with the smaller brush that we were using, this is a number 1. It's literally the smallest. We're going to add some darker tones at the bottom. Get these dark tones at the bottom, blend them in further and further. A bit more black. And this will sort of start to shape our rocks up. There you go. With the darker tones will be at the bottom, and the lighter white tones will be sort of at the top. So that is basically how I paint rocks. Get a basic shape, add some colours, some tones, some lights and darks later. So you could guess, like, the light is sort of hitting it on this side, and you do some nice curved strikes on there to make it look like round or like 3D-ish. There you go. So there we have the basic shading of our rocks. We'll do some on the other side. And then we want some darker tones again at the bottom, just so it's not like, you know, too light. Blend some of the darker bits in. Just lightly touching with some black. Bottom. Just take your time. Don't rush it. You know? Blend those colours a bit better. And we can sort of separate. Get some texture in there as well now. Blend it in a little bit. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go from this side, some black, and just add on some really dark bits at the bottom. Will be really dark. Just pure black, no grey or white. I'm just going to add a bit of lighter tone, just a little bit here. Bottom. Add some bit of texture. Just lightly touching it with like a lighter grey that I've mixed, just to give it a bit more texture. Kind of roughly going over a bit. Now we want, there we go. Some darker bits here in it. Just to give it a bit of texture. Especially where like some of the sort of creaks would be. And creases and whatnot. Sometimes take a look at from the other side, and yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Let's get some texture in at the bottom. Not too blended. There we go. And the last bit then, we just brighten up these areas where the light is hitting. You can play around with these colours as much as you want, really. There's no really right or wrong. You know, play around with these colours as much as you want or need. But I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, I don't mind that, you know. I think that looks right. That looks how I want it to look. add some cracks, just light, cut a little bit of cracks and stuff. Like I said, you can spend all day, changing up the tones, changing up the textures, and using different techniques of roughly putting your paint on it, lightly putting your paint on it, until you're happy with what you've got. One little thing I am going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of water in, so it's not like the rocks are on top of the they ain't on top of the concrete, like. So just gonna wet my brush and dry it, get it just a bit of brown. I'm just gonna add a touch in here, the bottom. Reapply the paint on the brush, add in a little bit at the bottom. Try not mix those colours up and stuff. But like if you do, like I said, acrylic is lovely for, you mess something up, you can fix it, it's easy. So we're gonna leave that area to dry. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna texture this riverbank up a bit more. And the edges here, we're just gonna paint it out a bit. Because it's sort of the edge of the riverbank. There we are. We just kind of made that riverbank a bit bigger. Now what I'm going to do, we can add some rocks and stuff on the edge in a bit. Once again, I'm just going to leave that to dry. While I leave that dry, because this is dry now, I'm going to sort this out because I'm not quite happy with how it's looking. Just kind of straighten it out a little bit. Brighten it up a little bit because it's kind of merged with the green, which is not what we wanted. And then I'm also going to straighten out our bit of concrete overhang bit. So I'm just going to try and get a bit of grey again. I'm just going to go along the edge, add some lighter tones. There we go. On this side as well, trying not to mess up that rock that we just painted. And then, like sometimes again, this is the lovely thing of acrylic, is that I've seen a bit of an error. There's just a bit of grey here that I just want to quickly go over with some brown. Just cover that up, straighten that overhang bit out. Try and not merge the colours together too much. There we go. So Now that I've done that, this painting is looking the way I want it to. I'm going to add some more texture to those bushes and shrubs. What I usually do to do that, get the colours that I need. So I'm going to put some burnt sienna, and I use a more rounded sort of brush. So this will help me create the effect that I want. So we're just gonna wet our brush and get some burnt sienna on there, and I'm just gonna lightly dab it on. Just to get some lighter and darker tones and textures on those bushes in the background. Sparsely, like dots, you know? You like push like little dots, and you can change your strokes up, make it more rounder strokes, or you can dab it on like I'm doing here. And maybe the paint's a bit thick there, so we can use a sponge. That will also create a bit of texture, some unique textures as well. So I think that that's enough of my burnt sienna. So I'm gonna leave that to dry now, and then I'll put some more on there. So another thing that I'm gonna do now that this bit's dried down here is I can also texture that up a bit, add some detail to that. Some cracks and things here and there. Some darker colours, some lighter colours. Try and get the effect of concrete. So I'm going to use the sponge like this. Just dab some black paint on it, use the sponge like that to get the texture that I want on there. Down here in the corner, a bit more. Use the brush, being a little bit rough with it, but I use the brush just to get those like concrete sort of textures going. And then I'm gonna stick some lighter colours on as well, mix them in. Just to get the effect that this is like an old concrete structure. Again, I'm going to use that sponge, and I'm just going to sort of blend the colours by going round in a circle. Could even use the sponge to apply on there. See how that creates all these little dots. There we go. That's looking a lot like concrete to me. So, don't know if you can see, there's a good idea of the different techniques and methods you can use with paint, especially acrylic paint, because not every painter would paint with a sponge probably, or a whatever like. But I do. I like to use different materials and methods to make my paintings the way I want them. I might try this round brush on there now as well. Chuck a bit of white on my palette again, and just very lightly dip the edge of this brush in, and there we go. We just lightly tap it on there, all around the place. Just literally getting about that much paint on it. And literally just dabbing it with that white paint, because it's quite a dark background, so it creates the effect that we want. So there we go. Now this sponge is expendable. I can pull pieces off if I want some smaller pieces, to do smaller bits as well. So we can just, on the edges now, dab it with the sponge, just like that. Bring it down, and then what we can do, some more black, darken it up a bit. Just keep applying the paint, and then dab in. Keep applying the paint. Dab where the areas maybe you think are a bit too light. Could use some darker. You just get that. Dab it all along there. Could definitely use with a bit more black. You know, different ideas. There we go. Get a bit around the edges. Don't matter if it overlaps with the green too much, because we're going to add some grass and stuff on there later. But there you go. That's what I want. And for the edges, the very edges, we can just tap it on little bits with our brush, because the sponge might overlap into the water. It's the only thing, it is a bit maybe unpredictable, but I'm just going along the edges now, just tapping with our small brush number 1. So we've got this idea of there are all these stones and concrete and all sorts of stuff. I'm going to add a couple of dashes of black, and that's probably that's probably enough now. That's probably how I want it. Just a little bit more dots of white and get the sponge then and make it a little more random. There we go. So that's our concrete, part of our concrete bridge. So we're gonna do a bit more now of that all the way along the edge. So let's carry on making that texture. Just mix a few different colours in. You know, use our rounded brush again. There we go. Mix them up a bit. So I'm just going to go around in circles now, blend some of these colours together first. But not too much, so we're just going to get some white, dab it on the palette. We don't want it on too thick, and we can just, there we are. That's the effect I was looking for the first time around. And we're just gonna, there we go. Get that all across there. So what you tip the paint, and then if it's too thick, you just dab a bit on the palette first, just to get it a bit thinner. And we just want to go all the way across here with that small piece of sponge. And we'll start going from this side here as well. Just carefully, we're layering it on, and the way we're layering it on, we can chuck some other colours on it, some greys, some blacks, just to make it look like it's not one big splotch of white. There you are. Don't matter if I overlay it with the green, because I can always fix that later. I'm just trying to get this concrete bit done for now. So there we are. So I'm just going to overlay some black now. Blend it in. There we go. Sometimes if it's too thick as well, you can just go over it a bit more. More of the paint will like stick to the sponge, and it'll like lighten it up a bit. That's what I always find. So over here it's a bit too light. Just darken it up a bit. It'll blend all together a bit as well, which is good. That's what we want. So I'm just gonna go over with the black. Maybe it's a bit too dark, but there, now we chuck a bit of white on it. There you go. I'm just gonna chuck a bit more white on there again. I think that's too dark. There you go. Lighten it up a bit. Some white. Perfect. I'm liking how this is looking already. Lovely. That's just what I wanted. Just like that. Okay. Sometimes you take a step back, have a look at some other bits. That's looking good to me. Texture some of these other bits up. Sometimes looking a bit closer helps as well. Like you can just see where you might need a bit more, maybe across some of your edges and stuff. No worries. There we go. I think just a little bit more white here in it. Bit more black in the middle there. Bit more white there. And you can just, again, it's like the rock, you could just keep playing about with that, with those colours, forever. And you'd just be laying on more and more paint. But I'm happy with that now. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to sort that grass out. Grass is actually growing over the top of the concrete a bit in some places, maybe. You know, so it's not going to be perfect. So I'm just going to get my green out again and put more of that on the palette. And with my very thin brush, my number 1 brush, and let's come down and just on the outline. Get some of that green. Sometimes I might need to kneel down, get a bit closer to the painting. There we go. Just sort out the edges, tidy them up a bit in some places where you think, you know, it's a bit, it looks like the concrete is eating into the grass and we want it to be the other way around. Some bits look a bit perfect, like, you know, so you can go over with the green. But there we go, just tidy up some of these edges a bit more. So we're just literally laying some of that green on where we've gone over a little bit with our concrete with the sponge. So some bits here and there we've actually gone over way too far, and we can literally fix it up so easily with acrylic paint. So anyways, that's our bit there done for now. We're going to leave all of that to dry for a minute. So the next bit I'm probably going to do now is layer a bit more colour on to where we've got those bushes and shrubs. And I'm also going to use the sponge for this as well. Let's just see how this looks. Yeah, that's great, that is. I like that. I like the texture that that's making. I've been thinking while I was doing this bit, I thought, maybe I could use the sponge for this bit as well. Give you the same sort of effect, because I was liking how that was looking. And so I thought I could do it the same here. It's the beauty of art. Sometimes you learn what you want to do as you go along. I'm just gonna grab a new bit, and I'm gonna grab some more burnt sienna, stick that on there, and we're just gonna layer up some more texture on these bushes and shrubs. We're just gonna go across the top here, just dotting it on, regularly reapplying, because otherwise it'll just blend in and it'll look a bit bland. So I'm regularly reapplying the paint, dotting it on, just like that. There we go. That's giving us the colour, the texture that we want. So we're just going to do another bit around here, our biggest bit. Let's see, go around the sides here and across. There you go. So we layer on some of that orange, some of it down here, little bits at the top as well. Just gonna do, we don't have to have every bit as light. We can have, you know, leave some of the dark bits in there. But again, we don't want it to be too dark, and there is a lot of dark in there. There we go. Let's take a look at this from the other side. Yeah, I'm liking that. I'm liking how that's looking. Great. Brilliant. I like that. I like that a lot. I like how that's looking. The burnt sienna. I'm just going to go over some of the top bits. Just tapping it on, dabbing it on. Give it a bit more texture again, just at the top where the sponge might not have reached. So good. Not absolutely everywhere, but most places. Just leaving those little pockets of the darker background in there in order to create some nice tones and nice textures and shading. So there we go. Again, I'm just gonna go a bit more over here. Take a look from this side. That's looking fine, that's looking great. So we're going to leave that bit to dry now. Right, so now we've got our textured concrete, some rocks there, and our bushes and shrubs. There's still a lot more detail to go into this painting, but basically the last bit that I'm going to do on this episode, put some green, and we're going to make some grass down there. We're going to chuck some white in with this green just to lighten it up a little bit, because we want some nice bit of texture with this grass. We don't want it to be exact, you know, the same exact colour as the background, otherwise it won't really stand out much. So this is where I use a palette knife and I just mix some green and some white together. There we go, to make a nice light sort of lime green. So let me just wipe this palette knife off real quick, and we take a scoop of paint and we choose where we want it, and we just stick it on, and you use the palette knife to cut little stripes or little lines into the paint to get a texture of grass, really cutting in with this palette knife. Just to get the texture of grass on there. So I'm going to put this a bit closer so you can see up close for this bit, because you might not be able to see. Again, scoop of paint, and we just layer it on where we want it, and we just cut into it with the knife, nice circles, and all different angles and directions. So we're just going to put a bit of grass on there for now. I'm going to do one last bit here. Again, just spread that paint along different bits that you want it, and you just cut into it with that palette knife to make that effect of all the little blades of grass. I'm just going to do these last bits here, and that'll probably be it today, because once again I've done quite a bit of painting today. So once again, thank you everybody for watching. This has been my landscape painting series, and until next time.